3 diver watches enter the gauntlet and only one can win. So these 3 divers are from WM, from North Edge, as well as from Addis Dive. All 3 under $100. Now the links to the listings will be in the description below the video, and also I'll be leaving a link to my collection. So one link with all the watches we've been discussing in the last couple of weeks in one place. Also check out the discount codes I've left below. So now let's talk about these 3 diver watches in detail and figure out which one is the best of all and beats the other 2. Let's do it. The North Edge Anchor sets out with a bold diver stance. The sunburst blue dial catches light cleanly, while the polished ceramic bezel adds depth and shine. It's a familiar aesthetic, but well executed. Balanced indices, a sharp handset, and that bracelet with its 3-link build imitating a 5-link look, giving the watch a bit more complexity without straying from its tool watch roots. Moving into the case, the finishing deserves credit. The brushed flanks are muscular, the lugs downturn aggressively, and they transition with polished bevels that reflect light at the edges. It's a subtle dial, but one that makes the anchor feels more refined than its price would suggest. Also notice that anchor just above 6. It's a printed element, but it just gives it more of that dive watch vibe. The tall coin-edge bezel sits confidently on top, giving you good grip and a classic dive watch profile. The crown guards are neatly shaped, leaving room for the signed crown, with its polished tip adding a touch of flash. But there's compromise. It's a push-pull crown, not screw-down, which does undercut its diving credentials quite a bit. On the wrist, this is a substantial watch at 41.7mm across, 12.5 thick, and stretching to a 54.5 lug-to-lug length. It leans to the large side, but those aggressive downturns help it wrap around the wrist better than raw numbers suggest. At 176 grams in weight, it has real heft. Not for everyone, but if you like presence and a solid feel, the anchor delivers. And I get a lot of comments about watches which are with a larger diameter. Potentially, this one is to look out for if your wrists are 7 inches and upwards. The bracelet on the North Edge Anchor is a 3-link design with a visual twist. The central link has 2 polished facets that mimic a 5-link setup, giving more sparkle than the construction alone would suggest. Solid stainless steel links brushed on top and polished on the sides, end in protruding end links that stretch the effective lug-to-lug length to 54.5mm. It's long on paper, but the aggressive downturned lugs keep it wearable, even on smaller wrists. Fluidity is good, though tolerances could be sharper. The clasp is milled with a secure one-pusher release. Something interesting, we haven't seen that for a while. Signed for detail, but inside you'll find a pressed wing rather than a milled one. Functional, though less premium. Flip the watch over and the case back is clean and legible with the sapphire crystal callout and the 100 meters of water resistance rating. That said, the push-pull crown limits true dive security, even if the design itself, double-threaded with a polished signed tip and blue sleeve, is interesting. Once again, 100 meters, push-pull, The bezel is a real highlight. Tall coinage ridges that give great grip. The ceramic insert adds gloss, and rotation is consistent with a firm, even resistance all the way around. There's a touch of spring back, but it clicks neatly back into place. The near hairline overhang at the edge case helps with grip while keeping the profile sharp. It's a very satisfying bezel to use, and it elevates the anchor's whole package. I like the resistance, I really do. I have to reiterate myself, the crown on the anchor is push-pull rather than screwed down, but it's easy to operate, semi-guarded and signed with a polished tip. It keeps the dive aesthetic intact. Setting the time and quick setting the date feels smooth with no awkward play in the stem. And hand winding is positive. For daily use, it's straightforward and reliable. Inside beats the Miyota 8215, a workhorse movement that offers around 42 hours of power reserve, 21 joules. Winding feels smooth, and yes, this example does hack, which is a nice touch. The 8215 has a reputation of being robust and widely serviceable, but it's still an entry-level engine. Its unidirectional winding system can produce a bit of rotor wobble, and accuracy can vary unless it's been regulated. That said, it's cheap to maintain, easy to replace, and more than adequate at this sub-$100 price point. On the dial side, everything leans into that blue theme. The applied batons catch the light nicely, the handset is sharp, and the lollipop seconds gives classic diver charm. The date window is neatly cut so it doesn't fully erase the double baton at 3, but on the broad dial it does look a touch undersized. Lume is green, reasonably bright at first charge, with the lumed pip on the bezel. Always welcome really for a diver, but the application of lume isn't completely uniform. The lower indices fade more quickly than the top. It'll get you through the night, but it's not class leading. Taken as a whole, the Anchor delivers a lot for under $100. It has presence, finishing that exceeds expectations, and a bezel action that feels much more expensive. The compromises are the push-pull crown, the average lume, and the workmanlike Miyota 8215. The WM093 GMT watch makes no secret of its inspiration. It's a straight-up subby GMT homage. The indices, rehoud, bezel layout, even the case shape all borrow heavily from that template. But what matters is the execution, and here it's done with care. The matte green dial paired with the green ceramic bezel insert gives strong contrast, and the overall balance is clean and legible. The case itself measures 40.7mm across and 13.6mm thick, rising to 15.1 with the Cyclops. Now, that seems a bit too high. So it does get that chunky stance, but one that still feels wearable. Lug-to-lug length comes in about 53.3mm, which is on the larger side. We get a lug width of 20mm and the bracelet tapers down to 16 at the clasp. At a weight of 155 grams, it carries enough heft to feel solid without being overbearing. Finishing is crisp, if not original. The polished flanks transition smoothly into brushed lug hoods, separated by subtle bevel rather than sharp edges. The bezel's brushed ridges contrast with polished cutouts for grip, and that mix of textures adds refinement. The screw-down crown is unsigned, which feels like a missed opportunity, but functionality, it's well integrated. Around the back, we get a screw-down case back, and it's decorated with the twin sharks and specks etched cleanly, reinforcing the 200 meters of water resistance. Overall, it's not a unique design, but it's faithful and well-proportioned homage that gets the look right. To be fair though, the bracelet on the WM093 is the strongest point on this watch. It's a 3-link design with polished center links and brushed outers, tapering from 20mm at the lugs down to 16 at the clasp. Integration with the case is nearly seamless, with matching brushing across surfaces. The polished sections will pick up scratches easily, but they add a touch of elegance to what is otherwise a sporty GMT diver. Tolerances aren't perfect. There are small gaps when stretched, but overall it feels tighter than what we saw on the North Edge. A big upgrade here is the use of screw pins rather than push pins, almost unheard of at this price point. The clasp continues the theme with a secure milled construction, mixing polished and brushed finishes, and even a milled folding wing inside. This is a very solid setup. The bezel action is bold and mechanical. It's loud, clicky, with consistent resistance all the way around. It doesn't have the refined spring back of the North Edge. There is a little backplay, but it feels functional, reliable, and gives off that satisfying metal-on-metal sound. Alignment is good, with no overhang. The bezel sits flush with the case flanks for a clean look. The crown is oversized at 7.4mm in diameter, making it easy to grip and operate. It's a screw down, which fits the 200 meters of water resistance, but it's unsigned, a detail that feels like a missed opportunity. Still, the overall execution is impressive at this price point. The WM uses synthetic sapphire for both the crystal and the Cyclops, so you're getting proper scratch resistance front and center. The magnification isn't a full 2.5 times as we'd expect on the perfect homage, but it's closer to 2, so it doesn't completely fill the date window, but it still does its job, and the protruding Cyclops adds that sub-style presence. The beveled edge of the crystal is a nice touch, leading the eye down into the dial. If we talk about the operation of the crown, it's relatively good, with easy access to winding and date-setting positions. Winding itself is buttery smooth, though the clicks between positions don't feel quite as crisp as, say, on the NH34 or even the Miyota movement. Inside, we get the Seagull ST1622, beating at 21,600 vibrations per hour, running 21 joules, and offering 40 hours of power reserve. It's known for being a reliable workhorse GMT movement that's serviceable and affordable, though not as widely supported globally as Seiko or Miyota calibers. The dial itself is well laid out, matte green with applied indices edged in chrome, a brushed rehaut, and crisp white printing. The ceramic bezel insert frames it well, while the GMT hand with its arrow tip adds functionality. Lume is a strong point here. Bright blue, evenly applied, long-lasting, especially impressive for one of WM's earlier models. When you add it all up, the WM does well in this gauntlet. It offers a proper screw-down crown, synthetic sapphire crystal throughout, a milled clasp, and a functional GMT movement. Compared to the North Edge, this one feels more refined and more serious as a tool watch, though it trades away some originality. In terms of value, it's easily one of the standout sub-$100 GMT watches on the AliExpress arena. The AddisDive AD2505 is clearly inspired by the Subby, but it doesn't feel like a direct clone. Instead, it leans into inspiration while carving out its own style. Color plays a big role here. In the black or blue variants, the bezel matches the dial, but in this camo green version, the contrast is sharper. A black ceramic bezel with beige numerals that tie perfectly into the beige mini-track on the dial and printed numerals. The applied indices are edged in gold-tone chrome, filled with a slightly yellowed lume, which complements the warm tones throughout the setup. The gilt-style handset keeps the vintage vibe going, and the heavy green sunburst brings it all to life. It's a thoughtful and cohesive color package. Dimensionally, it's well judged. At 40.6mm across, 13.3 thickness without the Cyclops, 14.3mm with it. The profile stays flatter than the WM watch. The lug-to-lug length comes in at 53.1mm, balanced by a 20mm lug width, tapering down to 18 at the clasp. At a weight of 166 grams, it's solid but manageable. The case sides are polished and flat, transitioning to brushed lug hoods with crisp, well-cut bevels. The bracelet integration is seamless, like literally. It's tighter than both the WM or the North Edge Anchor watches. A signed 7.4mm diameter crown adds presence, and the bezel, slightly overhanging the case, is just enough to give grip without breaking the lines. The result is a watch that feels deliberate, cohesive, and very well put together. The bracelet on the AD2505 integrates seamlessly with the case, brushing on the lug hoods carried straight into the links. The top surfaces are brushed, which hides daily wear and tear well, while the polished outer flanks add just a touch of shine. Fluidity is excellent, though tolerances aren't perfect. Stretch it and you'll see the small gaps. It's held together by push pins, and the clasp is simple, double pusher unit with 3 micro adjustments. Inside we get a pressed wing rather than milled, so basic but functional. Flip the watch over and we're met with the fluted case back, which is screwed down, edged with the AddisDive logo and the key specs. Up front, the bezel is the real highlight. Rotation is light but precise, with sharp clicks and virtually no backplay. It feels more solid than the North Edge. It feels better refined than what we saw on the WM. Honestly, this is one of the best bezel experiences you'll find under $100, and probably one of the best bezels I've held to date on an AddisDive watch. The crystal is synthetic sapphire with anti-reflective coating, including the Cyclops and the execution. Overall, this is an excellent setup. I do want to mention that a 1mm tall Cyclops, this is good stuff. The low profile blends into the dome rather than sticking out. Magnification isn't the full 2.5 times, closer to 2, but the frame date window helps readability. Anti-reflective coating keeps glare down, and paired with that sunburst green dial and beige accents, the whole setup feels cohesive, clear, and much more premium than the price suggests. The crown on the AddisDive is nicely executed. At 7.4mm across, it's big enough to grip easily with a notchy feel that gives clear feedback. The pull-out positions are crisp and precise, unlike the softer feel of the Seagull ST movement we saw earlier. Inside is the same Miyota 8215 we found in the North Edge. 21 joules, 42 hours of power reserve, hacking seconds, and a solid reputation for reliability. The winding action isn't quite as smooth and buttery as the Seagulls, but it makes up for it with dependability and clean crown engagement. Where this watch really shines is lume. AddisDive loaded it with bright, long-lasting C3 green lume across the dial, hands, as well as the bezel markings. The result is a torch-like display that outlasts both the WM and North Edge by a wide margin. Application is even, intensity is strong, and with a fully lumed bezel, this is one of the best lume packages under $100. The dial itself ties everything together. The heavy green sunburst shifts under light. The beige accents on the minute track and numerals complement the gilt-edged indices. And the frame date at 3 keeps balance under the synthetic sapphire cyclops. It's cohesive, distinctive, and with a premium look. Taken as a whole, the AddisDive AD2505 delivers a complete diver's package, a trusted movement, standout lume, sapphire crystal, ceramic bezel, and 200 meters of water resistance. It doesn't just keep up with the competition, it outclasses them. In this gauntlet, the AddisDive is the one to beat. We discussed quite a few topics about these watches. We talked about their design, their styling. We talked about the lume, the dial setup. We talked about the crystals, the movements, the bracelets. We talked about the case backs, the overall cohesion with the aesthetic. We've covered a lot of ground with these 3 watches, and I think it's clear as day that AddisDive did best. Now, did I expect that result? No. I actually didn't. I thought it was a good second place. I was actually putting quite a lot of money on the North Edge. But as we can see, that push-pull crown, yeah, it sort of killed it, didn't it? Also, with WM, it's not bad. It's actually it's a strong performer. But that unsigned crown and that ST1622 movement, yeah, it's a GMT movement. It's budget. But hey, AddisDive basically whooped everyone out of there. But anyways, the links to the listings are in the description below the video. Do check them out if you're after some sharp prices. Also, check out the discount codes and the link to my collection. So, one place where all the watches we've been discussing over the last couple of weeks. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.